Good afternoon. Welcome to the Voces Verdes Google Hangout. My name is Elianne Ramos and I'll be your host. Our topic today is going to be the impact of climate change in the Latino community. As you probably heard earlier this month, the Environmental Protection Agency released a much anticipated proposal to finally limit carbon pollution from power plants. And these power plants are responsible for 40% of the total carbon emissions in the United States. So to give you a little frame of reference, the United States already limits mercury, arsenic, soot, but not carbon emissions. And this has a huge impact on Latinos. According to the Centers for Disease Control, 1 out of 2 Latinos live in an area that doesn't meet EPA quality standards. And Latino children tend to end up in the emergency room due to asthma and other respiratory illnesses, and climate change will make this even worse. So I'm sure my guests today are going to have a lot of things to say about this. But before we start, I'd like to thank our co-sponsors, Green for All, Latino Giants, the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, HACU, Voces News, and Speak Hispanic. And now join me as I welcome my guests today. First up, we have Gina McCarthy, who is the Environmental Protection Agency Administrator. How are you?
Gina? Good. How are you?
Welcome to the Hangout. Next, we're going to have a little later on Angela Barranco, who is the Associate Director for Public Engagement at the White House Council for Environmental Quality. And with us, we're going to have as well Tomas Morales, who is a board member at the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. And right here with us right now, we have Maria Cardona, who is a board member at Voces Verdes. How are you, Maria?
I am well. Thank you for having us.
And so I'm going to go right into the conversation. I want to give you a big welcome, Maria and Gina, since you are here. And I'm gonna go first to the administrator. Can you please give us an overview on this topic?
I would love to. And first, thanks, Elianne, for pulling this together. And I want to thank Voces Verdes and all of our partners who helped to make this conversation possible. You know, one of the first trips that I took as administrator was to a Hispanic community called Pilsen. It's on the Lower West Side of Chicago, and one of the reasons I went there is because it was historically home to a lead smelter. And that lead smelter left many years ago, but guess what? It left behind a lot of toxic pollution. And I wanted to go and understand how EPA could partner better with that community to address these historic challenges, as well as position them to be healthier as a community and more vibrant moving forward, and how we could partner with them in that effort. Because really the heart of EPA's mission is public health protection. And when you're talking about communities like this, that are low-income communities, that are communities that have been in many ways left behind, we call that environmental justice, because they've been disproportionately impacted by this type of pollution for too long. And really one of the greatest challenges of our time is to recognize that environmental justice is a priority, but also that the biggest public health challenge we face today is the challenge of climate change. So we have to also shift our focus beyond environmental justice and also start thinking about climate justice. How do we deal with this challenge effectively? And the exciting thing for me is I'm living at a time when I have a president that really shows presidential leadership on this issue. He recognizes that the climate has been changing, and with hotter weather comes ozone, comes longer allergy seasons. Essentially, it becomes an opportunity for more and more asthma attacks to happen, especially impacting our kids and our elderly. And in fact, in 2009, 70% of Hispanic children were actually living in areas in the U.S. where we have not good air quality. And we found that more and more Puerto Rican children are actually experiencing, in some cases, twice the amount of asthma that other kids are experiencing in the U.S. So we have an issue here. We have an issue that has broad implications and an issue that has intense implications for Hispanic communities moving forward. So EPA is looking to partner with you. This president has stood up and said, climate change is one of the greatest challenges of our time. It threatens public health as well as our economy. We know that there are communities that are already disproportionately impacted and will be even more so in a changing climate. And he's told us to step up. Just about a year ago today, he developed a climate action plan. And that action plan was comprehensive to turn beyond the science and start using that science to design actions that are really going to effectively address this challenge and turn this risk, this public health risk, this business risk, into opportunities for everybody. And so I'm happy that as part of that effort, EPA was called on to deliver what we call the Clean Power Plan, which we put out in Elianne just referenced. We put it out a couple of weeks ago, and it's a plan to reduce carbon pollution from our power plants, our existing power plants. And the great news about this is that we can do this work. We can show people that you don't need to be afraid of climate action. What you really need to be afraid of is climate inaction. And there's opportunities here to move forward, to take actions that are focused on reducing waste, bringing energy efficiency to the table, looking at low carbon sources, looking at growing jobs, not increasing public health risk. And so we're happy that we put this out. It's in the middle of a comment, it's at the beginning of a long comment period right now. And we're encouraged by the reaction so far. But honestly, we need everybody's voice at the table. We need people speaking about this, working with their communities, raising this issue up to their local leaders as well as their state leaders, and helping us address this challenge. The president recognizes that climate change is an issue where we need to address it now, but it also can have other direct public health benefits, because when you capture carbon pollution and you reduce that from fossil fuel-fired electric generating units, our power plants, you also capture traditional pollutants like particulate matter, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, volatile organic compounds, those pollutants that for a long time we've known that they have direct public health impacts, not just on our kids, but on everyone. They lead to lung illnesses, they lead to heart ailments, cardiac problems. They actually lead to premature deaths. So the proposal that we put out on the table has not potentially $93 billion in benefits. The vast majority are direct health benefits here that we can bring to the table at the same time addressing this significant challenge of carbon pollution. So I am so pleased to be part of President Obama's initiative here. To deliver these kind of benefits to people moving forward. He considers it to be one of the greatest moral obligations that we have, and one that will position our children to have a world that's healthier and safer moving forward. And I know he speaks not just as President of the United States, but also as a father of two beautiful children. And I think we all can relate to that. We know that we have to protect our families moving forward. And the great news is that we can do this in a way that will keep our economies growing, that it will make our communities healthier and safe. But I really need folks to get engaged as much as you can. Give your unique voice and lend it to the table. We really need folks to understand that as political leaders making decisions, they need to listen to everyone. We need to listen to the science. We need to understand the people who are most vulnerable and get them to speak up and really demand that people take up the charge that the president is now leading and really take action on climate change. So if you can get engaged during this comment period, we would love it. If you'd like us to come and visit you, I go out all the time. I love to do it. I want to make sure that we reach everyone and that everybody's voice is heard. So Elianne and Voces Verdes, thank you for an ability to talk to you, and I'm happy to take questions, and it's an honor to be here with you.
Well, my initial question is going to be, where can people go to comment?
Yes, you can go to the EPA website. If you go to epa.gov, that's our general website. If I can, I'll have people flash on the exact location within EPA's website where you can provide comment, but you can do it in writing. We'll have actual 4 hearings across the U.S. We'll take letters, we'll take emails, but I think it's most important to communicate with us, but also just to spread the word locally. Talk to people in your community, at your churches, at local organizations, at your local leaders. In many ways, what we're doing is building off the work that's already been done at the local and state level. But in many ways, it's all going to be about whether or not we get the word out and we get all those voices heard.
Yeah, and that is very important. So I have one more question for you. Yes. And I know that you don't have a lot of time, so I'm gonna maybe make it quick. What are some of the simple things that we can do as individuals to limit our carbon footprint and fight climate change?
Oh, that is a great question. First of all, I would check with your local community. Almost every local community these days has climate teams that get together and work with their mayors and work with their community leaders. It can be as easy as finding out what kind of energy efficiency programs you have available to you. They'll often provide incentives for getting more efficient appliances in your homes. It's a great way to save you money and also to take advantage of the incentives that the states and federal governments provide. Make sure you take advantage of sort of the high efficiency vehicles that are out there. If you're buying a new car, make sure you're investing in one that really gets a lot of mileage. It'll save you money, and it's another incentive that the president has brought to the table. Just trying to find ways to weatherize your house. If you want to invest, and there's opportunities there to invest in solar on your rooftops that can help communities, those are great ways to also help your churches, and there's ways in which we can work together on that. I know our Energy Star program has an entire initiative working with religious institutions. So go to our website. We have a website that actually talks about all the things you can do. Recycling is great too. Every little bit helps. We actually generate carbon every time we're wasteful, every time we fail to recycle and reuse products, every time we have to turn that air conditioner up because someone's opened the window or kept our lights on instead of turn them off and we don't use them. All of that ends up being a drain on our generation and ends up spewing out more pollution than we need. So everybody can help, from what their own energy use to being active in their own communities to really pushing the states to do more and more.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for all of that information. As you can see on the screen, there's the website where you can go and find more information about the Clean Power Plan. And I want to thank you, Administrator, for taking the time. I know how busy you are, in implementing this planning and getting it to fruition. We thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
It was wonderful to be here. Thank you so much, Elianne.
Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
So we're going to continue our conversation now, and I have here with me Maria Cardona, and so we're going to continue talking with Maria. Maria, how are you?
Good, thanks, Elianne. It was wonderful to hear the administrator's comments, and she's exactly right on target about how important this is to the Latino community.
Yes, and so I have a question for you, very quick. There's a perception that Latinos don't care about the environment, which we really know that is not true, right? Or that the environment doesn't register in their radar. Can you tell us what the surveys that you have conducted show about Latinos?
Absolutely. That's a terrific question, Elianne, because you're absolutely right. I think that the perception is changing, but the perception has been up until a few years ago that the environment was not something that the Latino community really cared about. And I can tell you that, in fact, in all of the polling that I've done in my years in working with the Latino community, 10 to 15 years ago, that actually was true. the environment and climate change was not ever an issue back then that Latinos, that really registered with Latinos in terms of a top issue when it came to an issue that they either voted on or that they wanted their elected officials to focus on. That has since changed. And I think what we have seen is that mothers and grandmothers and fathers and families and activists all around the country have seen the horrendous effects of climate change and what those effects have had on Latino children. And to underscore something that the administrator said, you know, it's no coincidence that this issue has begun to emerge as one of the most important issues in that Latinos have and with Latino families, and also the understanding that a lot of Latinos actually live in places where there is horrendous amounts of pollution in our air, in our water, in our food, and that unfortunately Latino communities, as do many other minority communities, live in places where polluters just feel free to pollute. And so those factors, I think, have really contributed to this raising the level of importance and raising the level of interest among Latinos. And now the most recent survey that Voces Verdes has done with Latino decisions, in fact, indicates that 9 out of 10 Latinos believe that climate change and taking care of our environment is one of the most important issues facing the Latino community. And in fact, Latino Decisions has said that in their years of polling on myriads of issues that are important to the Latino community, that the climate change issue and the environmental issue is second only in intensity to the immigration issue. So as you can imagine, that says a lot. And so I think what this says is that Latinos are finally understanding the importance that they need to make sure they communicate to their elected officials if this is going to change anytime soon. And it's one of the reasons why Latinos applaud across the country the changes that the EPA has announced and that we're hoping a lot of Latinos will chime in on to underscore what we know is a reality, that climate change and the environment are a top issue for Latinos and Latinas across the country.
Yeah, very important that we pay attention to this issue, especially because our population is so affected by everything that is environmentally related. I see that we got our new, one of our other guests just got here, Angela Barranco, who is the Associate Director for Public Engagement at the White House Council on Environmental Quality. How are you, Angela?
I'm so good, Elianne. Thank you so much for having me today, and thank you, Voces Verdes. This is amazing, and I'm excited to be here.
Yes, we're very happy that we were able to get both you and Gina to do this, because I know how busy you are over there. I know that you have to leave. You don't have a lot of time with us, but I want to make sure that we get, you have so much knowledge on this topic. So I'm going to go right into your question. What do you think are the most effective ways that Latinos and other impacted communities can get involved to influence the implementation of these proposed standards?
Absolutely. I can't underscore enough how important it is for Latinos to be involved. So let's start there. Our community is disproportionately affected, and so our voices need to be louder and more inclusive in every aspect. And so thank you. That's a great question. First and foremost, I think spend some time talking to our own community. Let's talk to our family, our friends, our neighbors, and say how important this is and how historic it is and what the impact will be on asthma rates in our community, on the children in the future, productivity for our families. And I think it's really just, starting there and talking to folks and making sure that conversation is happening right now, because so much of this is going to be, people talking to each other and making sure that we get out there and have our voices heard. But, once we talk to each other and once we get on the same page and we understand how important this is, there's some really important dates that are coming up, and I'd be happy to share those with you. On July 29th and July 30th, there are going to be hearings across the country. They're going to be in Washington, D.C., in Atlanta, in Denver, and in Pittsburgh. And these hearings will be all day long, and we expect them to be filled with people who will not be representing our community, who will not be representing how important this is. And so we need to show up, and we need to say, publicly and loudly how important it is for this rule to go forward and how important it is for our community, and have that voice represented. So come to one of these hearings, show how important it is for the Latino community to be there, and I can't emphasize enough that we want you there. We want a diversity of opinions and voices there, and that's really important. In addition, I know the administrator mentioned this, but there's a really easy way, 2 seconds on your mobile phone. You can go to epa.gov /Clean Power Plan, and we can take comments from anywhere, from anyone, and so we want you to get involved and be a part of that. And so make sure to go to the EPA website and add your voice publicly and professionally, and a part of everything, the historical record here, to say how much this is something that's really meaningful to you. And then last, I think once you've talked to your family and friends and communities, and I think also then gone out in public and sent your comment in and said how important it is, get active, get involved. Organizations like Voces Verdes are having events and educational opportunities and all the things that can happen. So I encourage folks to get even more committed to working in their communities. So those are the things I can think of off the top of my head. But every voice counts in this, and it's going to be a fight. It's going to be something where the special interests who do not stand up for our community will be loud. So we need to make sure that we stand up and we have our voice heard as well.
Mm-hmm. That'll be the takeaway from this conversation, right? We need to get involved in all of the issues that affect our communities, especially something that's so related to our way of living and our health, right? So
yep.
Thank you so much, Angela. I know that you have also to run with so many things that you're doing at the White House and everywhere else. So we appreciate so much that you took the time to tell us all of these things that we can do about it.
Such a pleasure, and thank you for having me, and I'd love to join you again in the future, and anything we can do, let us know. The White House is committed to moving this forward and working with Administrator McCarthy and everyone, including you, Elianne, so thank you.
It's an honor to have you. Thanks so much. And so we're going to go now to back to Maria. And Maria, we're going to be chatting a little bit about some of the things that you have been doing with Voces Verdes in regards to environmental issues.
Terrific, thank you. So Voces Verdes, as you know, is a broad coalition of Latino leaders, and what is so exciting about Voces Verdes is that it is not your typical environmental activists, only environmental activists that are part of Voces Verdes. Of course, we have them, and they are intricately involved in everything that we do, but they were the ones who actually understood the importance of making sure that Voces Verdes and the Voces Verdes coalition was very broad, and that it represented all aspects across the spectrum of Latinos working and living in this country. So what does that mean? That means that as part of Voces Verdes, we have doctors, we have educators, we have nurses, we have businessmen and women, entrepreneurs, we have young activists, we have people that essentially represent the whole spectrum of Latinos that are living and working in this country, that have families, that have a stake in our future, that understand that the environment and climate change is not just something that is affecting people that are people that care about the environment.
But at this point, just
I'm sorry, Maria. The camera is having a little bit of trouble. But thank you so much. It's so great to know that there's so many organizations working.
And let me and if I could just add also, Elianne, I think one of the key points that really underscores the work that Voces Verdes is doing is that we had a letter recently that went out that is applauding the president and applauding EPA for what they are doing, their groundbreaking work on trying to curb carbon pollution, and it was signed by 31 national Latino organizations. that are saying that the president and the EPA and Administrator McCarthy are all doing the right thing, and that they are going to help amplify the great work that they're doing and getting the word out on how Latinos can get involved. And so I think that really underscores that this message is getting out and it is resonating in our communities, but it is still incumbent on each and every one of us, anyone who is in any sort of influential or leadership position within the community, to continue talking about this, because it is easy to get lost in the whole milieu of issues that are on the plate today. But clearly, as we have seen through Voces Verdes' work, this is an issue that is front and center with the Latino community, and we need to continue to talk about why it's important to Latinos.
Very important indeed. So where can people go to know more about Voces Verdes and all of the work that you're doing?
So I'm going to ask if we can to have the Voces Verdes logo put up. Do you know do you know how to do that? We'll put the website up to make sure that people understand where we can go and where they can get more information and how to get involved.
And the URL is vocesverdes.org, I understand.
Yes, vocesverdes.org.
Okay.
Hopefully we can put it up on the screen. If not, I'll just continue to say it. vocesverdes.org.
I think that they get it. You know, it's a very simple URL, and it's very easy to remember. Voces, like voices in Spanish, and then Verdes, like the color green, is Green Voices, vocesverdes.org. So I'm gonna urge everyone who's watching to visit the website and get more information there. To visit epa.gov/climate clean plan. Is that what they say? We're going to list all of these websites in the vocesverdes.org website so that you can find more information. And so
I would also, Elianne, if I could also encourage folks to follow us on Twitter @voces_verdes. That would be wonderful to hear from you, to have you follow us. We'll follow you back to make sure that we can continue this conversation on all of the important social media platforms that are also, as you know, platforms that the Latino community loves to use. So we want to take advantage of those.
Yes, and it's amazing, you know, the fact that we can connect online to do some more of these things. So I urge everybody to follow Voces Verdes as well, and to get involved in the conversation. You know, as the administrator was saying, as Angela was saying, and Maria, it's very important that our voices are heard in this issue. And so I'm gonna thank you, Maria. You're the only one left out of the guests. Thank you so much for speaking with us all the way to the end. I'm gonna remind everyone that this broadcast is gonna be also uploaded to the vocesverdes.org website, so you can see it again. And I want to thank you all for watching and taking this time to really think about this issue. Please get involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Elianne. Thank you so much for leading this very important conversation.
Thank you, Maria, for the opportunity to collaborate with you.
Thank you.
Ciao, everyone.